Good afternoon, everybody. This is Mike, a.k.a. BB Gossip. It is Friday the 13th. Ooh. And I am doing a double post today. I am posting this recording on both of my podcasts because I just feel like it. Though there are a few people that are subscribed to both. Those of you that are subscribed to both, sorry. You can skip one or both if you want. Those of you that are only subscribed to one of them, well, listen to it if you want. But I am going to be talking about the Traitors US version, episode number 9, which aired last night or is airing right now if you want on Peacock, however you want. I did this last one on my Mike Talks About podcast exclusively. And today I decided that I was going to record it once, post it twice. So again, this is two posts of the same podcast. Listen to it wherever you want or don't at all. But you know what? I wanted to talk about something. This is what it's going to be. So here's where things stand. As I pull over for a half a second here. Give me a second. Because I need to address something. And nope, we're going to keep going for a second. And then we will stop randomly and start back up. Good times. All right. So, last night's episode was episode number 9, and I have chosen the title, A Helmet and an Adult Diaper. And that's because that's the phrase that Eric used at the beginning of the episode as he was confronted by Rob, who had the proposition of either I murder you or you become a traitor. Of course, Eric accepted. That's kind of where you expect these things to go, right? So remember, Eric was selected. Rob said he had choices between people, but I think all along he was going with Eric. Candace had been exposed as a traitor earlier in the evening. And so Eric and Rob, Eric accepts the traitor offer. Eric and Rob talk for a little bit. Rob tells him, I think that we can win together. And he tells us the same thing in his confessional. He's kind of like, I do think that Eric and I can win together. So at least initially, or from the sounds of it, and I'm not trying to I'm not trying to imply anything in the future, but I do get the feeling it's sometimes that Rob is playing us, the audience, in the same way that he's playing the fellow castmates. It's just giving that sense of, I'm going to tell you what I think you want to hear, but that's not necessarily what I'm going to do. Rob is obviously a very talented traitor. I will go back to my initial thoughts on the cast way back when. I said I thought he could be a really good traitor and go far. You just get a feeling for some of these people, and he came across as one of those people that, okay, he's playing sly, he's playing calm and coy and calm, but he could get you. So, but at least on paper, Rob says to us, I think Eric and I can win together. I personally am not sure that's really what Rob thinks, but he's going to say that because it sounds good. So, they head to the turret to discuss who to murder. And Rob comments immediately to Eric that he thinks that Johnny is going to be the target the next day, which it certainly seems that way. Johnny was very close to Candace and was very upset when Candace went. It just gave everybody was all super suspicious on Johnny. So and then Candace had suggested that, weeks earlier, or days earlier, he suggested that Johnny should get a shield because he hadn't had one, which was suspicious to people. So there was just lots of reasons to think that Johnny was very likely to get banished the next day. So that's a reason not to murder him, right? You don't want to murder someone you think is an easy person to get banished. And then Rob also mentions that Kristen has the shield, and Rob suggests that maybe Dorinda Natalie or Steven as options, which are, of course, they seem to come up with 3 options every week, right? This seems to be the standard formula at this point is, they're going to come up with 3 names and pick one of the 3. And those 3 are the last 3 that are going to walk in, or 2 of the 3 are going to walk in every day. It's starting to get formulaic in those terms to me. So I took notes on this as I was watching it, and I said my guess is Natalie based on the discussion. Rob is with the discussion was Rob saying I'm in very good with Dorinda, and Natalie will never be banished, but Steven may be. Will be perceived as a random banishment. And then I said, but remember, Steven was an option to recruit for Rob earlier, so I don't think that Rob necessarily wants to go after Steven when he was considering recruiting him. And then, a side note, I realized that they couldn't have recruited Kristen. Because he couldn't threaten her with murder, so Kristen wasn't available to be recruited, which I just find interesting. Not that Rob was considering her, but it just kind of popped into my head. So they come to their decision and they sign the death thing, and we fast forward to the breakfast, where Kristen, Rob, and Mark are the first 3 in at breakfast, and Kristen says, we need to talk. And they talk, and they seem to agree that Johnny is the target because of the Candace and the whole shield thing that I just mentioned. So, and how sad he was to see her go. So there we go. We were already laying the groundwork of this is who everyone thinks is going to go. Because I really do get this sense now as you watch this show. This is where, and I think I've talked about this before, this is where I have a problem with reality shows that are already decided when the first episode airs, which is the same case for this. This is just like Survivor in that production already knows who wins and knows the exact order of evictions before they start editing any episode. So they know who's going. So they can take you down a trail even though they're going to twist it at the end and reverse it and make it seem, oh my gosh, how shocking. They manufacture some of that shock. So I'm not trying to, again, lead a certain way, but just know that. Anytime you watch these shows, when they make it seem like something is obviously going to happen, then it's probably not obviously going to happen. But sometimes it will, right? That's the thing. Sometimes it will. So, so they're all saying, Rob has said the night before, Johnny's probably going tomorrow. They're saying the first thing in the morning, Johnny's going. So I'm immediately going like, is Johnny really going to go? Or is he? So, Tara's name also comes up as possibly being recruited by Johnny. So they're doing there's 2 traitors. It's Tara and Johnny because they're so close. And then here comes Tara and Eric. So here comes Eric, traitor, first day in the breakfast, and he's with Tara, who's just been mentioned. Eric is telling us that he's so nervous about being a traitor that he doesn't want to say anything. That's another little hint for further on down the road, right? That's another theme that they're dropping in on us. Tara tells people that she doesn't think Johnny's a traitor. Well, that's what you would expect Tara to say. And then Maura and Johnny come in. Oh, look who we've been talking about. Johnny is explaining how he thinks that Kansas was keeping him close as a faithful. Keep your as a traitor, you try to keep a couple of people close that you can bring along to the end because they'll never vote against you, right? So that's the angle Johnny is going with, which could be true. Doesn't matter now because Candace is gone, which kind of makes Johnny look suspicious, right? In come the last group of people, which is the group of suspected murderees, right? Steven and Natalie are the 2 to enter, which means that Dorinda has been murdered. And then we see Dorinda getting called into the diary room, as I would call it, and the envelope's on the table, and she's kind of like, oh, well, remember, she was first out last time she was on the show, and so she's not too bitter this time because, she lasted much longer. Rob says it flashes back to the murder night where we see Rob mention where they decide to murder Dorinda. Rob says to Eric that they are close. that Rob is close to Dorinda, right? So this is Rob saying to Eric, well, I'm kind of close to her, but we can murder her kind of thing, And it's like, this is what Rob always says. Rob is letting all the people he is close to get murdered, which, if you think about it, would kind of keep the suspicion off of you in some ways, potentially, right? Everyone that Rob is close to gets murdered. Well, Rob wouldn't be doing that. Why would Rob murder the people close to him? I'm just thinking that is part of his gameplay as a traitor, to murder the people that he's close to. Rather than keeping people close to them and then bringing them to the end, he's murdering them and just comes across as innocent. That's just my take on it. Alan comes in to the breakfast group, and he talks about thinking outside the box, which is just a hint to the Jack in the Box mission that we're going to see. And so, awkward pause there as I had to do a quick stop. So the Jack in the Box mission is teased, which again we saw in the UK version. So as it turned out, this Jack in the Box mission was slightly different than the UK version. So that's nice to see, a little bit of a change up. They talk. Johnny mentions that it really seems like everyone's coming after him, so he has nothing to lose. Natalie has told us that she suspects Steven. So now we've got Steven's name being thrown around. We've got Johnny's name being thrown around. And Tara has also been mentioned earlier on about the possibly being a sidekick of Johnny's, right? So we've got Tara, Steven, and Johnny's name are the ones that have come to the forefront already by breakfast time as far as being potential traitors. Neither Rob or Eric are getting any mention, right? So store all that away for future. After lunch or after breakfast, Eric tells us he's having problems acting normal. And Rob is amazed at how Rob is just so comfortable acting like nothing is wrong. And Tara pulls Kristen aside to talk to her, try to figure out what's going on. And Kristen pretty much tells her, well, I suspect you, which kind of throws Tara for a loop. She's like, oh. And Tara talks to us and she says she needs a new game plan if someone like Kristen, who she trusts, now suspects her. So another little implication of things to come. They jump in the car to head to the box, to the Jack in the Boxes. And again, I said Johnny feels like he has nothing to lose. The traitors get there. They all have to. There's big human-sized Jack in the Boxes, and they all climb in the Jack in the Boxes. And the traitors then get out while everybody else is in the boxes and they can't see. And they get together and huddle up and they answer a question. Then they get back in the box. And then Alan reveals asks them all to reveal their answer to the question, and then they reveal that the traitors' answer to the question, right? So it's a try to match whatever the traitors say to win money. And that's the way, in theory, it works. So they all get in the box. A difference between the UK and the US version is they had a drummer walking around playing a snare drum. It wasn't a snare drum. It was actually just a drum while they were in the box to, in theory, cover up the noises of the Jack in the Box. Well, they didn't do that on the US version. And they also added sound effects of creaking noises as they would climb in and out of the Jack in the Box. It's like, ooh, they're climbing in and out, and creaking noises. Oh, someone's going to hear who they are and figure out who they are. That's not happening. No one's going to figure out who anybody is. It's just all added drama to the episode. So no one's figuring out who is, a traitor based on the actual climbing in and out stuff. Okay, so that's where we're at. So we start the questioning. All right, so the first question is, who is most useful to the traitors? They get out of the box real quick, Rob and Eric, and they decide on saying Tara's name. I don't know. I can't even remember exactly why, but that's what they went with. They say Tara's name just because she's kind of one of the people that they don't have much sense for either way, I suppose, in her slight tie with Johnny and the fact that Johnny is probably going later that day, right? So they do that. The vote comes back. It's kind of a mishmash of who voted for what. A couple people said Tara. Eric was one of them. I don't remember who Rob voted for, but it was kind of a mix. It wasn't anyone in particular. And they got $1,000 out of it. I think 2 people matched. Eric and maybe Mark both said Tara. Everybody else said other names. The next question was, who is the most manipulative? And when they climb out this time, Eric seems a bit flummoxed, like, what are we going to do? They're whispering to each other. And Rob says, I got this. I know what to do. We're just going to vote for Tara for every one of these. So he says, from now on, we're voting Tara for everything. Eric tells us he realizes they're going to be throwing away some money, but he feels it's worth the info they'll get based on everyone's reactions to that, I guess. I don't know. I don't think... Remember, they don't care about the money. These guys are celebrities. They're going to win. They're getting paid to be there. So it's not chump change. You know, if they split $100,000 or $200,000, that's not chump change. But I guarantee you, they're getting paid a pretty penny. They're getting paid tens of thousands of dollars to be there, is my guess, on the order of, they're making decent money, and they're looking at this as more of exposure than it is a chance to make money. It's kind of like, in some ways, maybe recording artists who don't make as much money on the songs they sing as they do performing on the road. Rob is going to benefit greatly from his exposure. If he does this and it builds up his character, trust me, he's being talked about online. So I just see this as, it's not about the money for them, at least for Rob. And that's one of the reasons I like the non-celebrity versions of these kind of shows, because for most of the non-celebrities on these shows, it is about the money, and it's very important to them. All right, that being said, Rob says, let's vote for Tara for everything, which is what they then end up doing. Who do the Traitors feel that deserve a place in the finals? Tara. Who do the Traitors think would be the best traitor? Tara. And in this case, that was the last question. The last question was, who do the Traitors think would be the best traitor? And right before they all look at each other, all the people they said, let's just all vote Tara, because that's what the Traitors are doing. And that's what they say. And then they shut the boxes. Rob and Eric come out and they say, yep, we're saying Tara again. They flip over their answers, and everybody except for Johnny and Tara say Tara. Johnny said Mark, and Tara said Rob for the who do the Traitors think would be the best traitor. Well, I bet that caught Rob's eye that Tara said Rob. But point is, they're the only two that didn't follow what everybody said to do, which makes him even more suspicious. And then Alan announces that there's one more question. After he said that there was only one question, it kind of threw me when he said that. He's like, huh? And then he said, everybody go in their boxes, and the question is, who do the Traitors, which 4 faithfuls, or which 4 do the Traitors want to shortlist for murder tonight? It doesn't have to be faithful, just which 4, who do the Traitors want to shortlist for murder tonight? 4 players will be locked in their boxes, and Rob says to Eric when they come out to talk, they're going to expect us to be one of the 4, but let's make it none. Let's prove them wrong, or let's mislead them. Now understand, I think we're down to 8. I think we're down to 8 people, and if you'll pardon me, I'm going to count quickly. We're going to give you a head count of who is left. So on my sheet, Maura, Christian, Natalie, Tara, Steven, Johnny, Mark, Rob. And as I say all of that, I didn't, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Yes, 8 left. So they're going to shortlist 4. That means that 4 won't be shortlisted. So by them not including themselves in the shortlist, there's only 2 faithfuls that aren't up for murder that evening. And that would be, well, I'll tell you who they decided to shortlist. So then they reveal who the shortlist is. And the shortlist is, I have to scroll. Natalie, Tara, Christian, and Johnny are shortlisted. Meaning, 5. No, there's 9. Mark, Stephen, and Maura are the 3 faithful that are safe. So there's actually 9 left at this point. So Mark, Stephen, and Maura are safe. And, of course, Rob and Eric are safe too, but they're not. They're traitors. So they head back. The safe people jump in a car and head back to the castle. The non-safe people are stuck locked in a box. I thought, are they going to halt? Well, how are they going to do this? They let them out. They come back. They're just delayed by 10 or 15 or 20 minutes, right? That's to create the separation so that the safe ones get a chance to talk and the potential murdered ones get a chance to talk. They just created that intentional separation. In the car on the way back, Natalie tells Christian, Johnny, and Tara that she doesn't think any of them are traitors. And she says it to us and others, I think, at one point. She said she could just tell the way that Johnny was acting that he's not acting like a traitor. He's acting like he's really desperate, fearful, all of that. And so she says, I'm thinking Stephen as who to go after. And so that's where Stephen's name is coming up again. So remember, we got Johnny's name, Tara's name, Stephen's name, with the 3 names were getting tossed around at the beginning. She's reinforcing the name Stephen. And Natalie, Rob is talking, and he also says, hey, he was thinking to go for Johnny, but now he's thinking of going for Stephen because he can see the swing, right? He can see the swing in the mood, like, oh, maybe we should go for Stephen. And so Johnny and Tara get together, and they're like, we're just going to go for whatever. We're just going to expose our friendship that we've been trying to keep a secret that everybody knows about. We're going to tell them how deep our friendship goes, right? And also, Rob, when he tells us, because he tells us that he was going for Johnny, but he's thinking now, after seeing how Natalie's going for Stephen, and just the whole sense, that the vibe, that he's going to have to communicate with Eric with his eyes to go for Stephen. So, that will happen, I'm sure. There's not some secret that it's not going to happen. And so, I'm confident that Eric will get those vibes from Rob. So, we head to the round table. At the round table, everyone, Eric, sorry, not everyone. Eric is nervous because it's his first time at the round table as a traitor. Eric is nervous about everything today. It's his first breakfast. It's his first, mission as a traitor. It's his first round table as a traitor. So he's nervous. Stephen is talking about, he's all about Johnny. And Johnny and Tara are mouthing "I love you" to each other across the table. That's the setting for the round table. Tara breaks the ice and reveals to the group that she and Johnny are best of friends. They've been friends for years. They know each other. She trusts him implicitly. They would know if the other was a traitor, which immediately someone jumped like, how would you know? How would you know? And he's like, we would know. We know each other so well. And Johnny jumps in immediately and says, we would know. And then Johnny calls out Stephen as being a potential traitor. They bring up I don't remember who brought it up, but they bring up the suspicious gold rock thing that went on with Lisa a couple of days earlier. And that was Natalie that brought that up. they go around and around, and the whole time they're going around, first of all, neither Rob, at least in what we saw, neither Rob or Eric seems to be saying much of anything, and neither Rob nor Eric's name are being brought up as being suspicious at all, right? So that's like, okay, it ain't going to be either one of those, so we know it's going to come down to, again, Johnny, Tara, or Steven. And my sense is that they've turned the screws on Steven. We don't know what happens when we're not watching, what's discussed, but it suddenly does seem like, and as I said, Rob has said, I feel like it's going towards Steven, and I'm going to try to get Eric to go that way. So it's like, okay, it's going to be Steven. At least that was my thought. Then Alan says, it's time to vote. We have the 2-dagger thing going on. By the way, I have thoughts on this 2-dagger thing, right? We'll get to that in half a second. He says, will the 2 daggers be used? It has to be used either for 2 votes. Rob has the dagger. Will he use his 2 votes this time? And not everybody knows he has it, in theory. That's what he said. And this is the second to last chance to do it. The next chance will be, the last vote will be next time that they has the chance to use the double vote. Natalie whispers over to Rob, like, I would appreciate it if you would just tell everybody that you have the dagger so everyone knows. I don't know what purpose that served, but Rob said okay, and he whispers that I have the dagger. I didn't even see a reaction from anybody. They didn't even show us a reaction from everybody. So Rob has now exposed that he has the 2 daggers. This whole 2-dagger thing is giving very much to me Big Brother-ish secret powers that never get used vibes, right? They came up with this twist of, this would be a great twist. Let's give someone the ability to do 2 votes. And then Rob has had such a handle on the game that he's had absolutely no need to use the 2 votes, right? I mean, that's it. Rob is playing this game so well, and no one is suspicious of him, that why would he use the 2 votes to cast any looks his way? Because if he uses the 2 votes and the person isn't a traitor, then it's going to look suspicious on him. That's my guess. So Rob's not going to use the 2 votes, at least not this week. Maybe next week. And think about that. Keep that in mind. Let's wonder if next week, if he uses his 2 votes to get out Eric, if he has a change of heart and decides he has to get out Eric because there's too much suspicion on him, and he will get a traitor out with his 2 votes, right? Ooh, that'd look good. So it's time to vote. The voting went, look, almost everybody went on Steven. Let's get to the chase. Tara voted on Steven. Steven voted for Johnny. Mara voted for Johnny. Eric voted for Steven, saying, I have to go with my gut. I wasn't sure. Rob voted for Steven, and that was enough to get out Steven. Kristen voted for Tara, and Natalie voted for Steven. Mark voted for Tara. Steven reveals he's a faithful and says, you blew it, to everybody. Like, you blew it, I'm a faithful. Follow up to the eviction, or to the banishment. Natalie apologizes to Eric and Rob for leading them astray and talking them into voting for Steven. Oh, how convenient is that? The faithful is apologizing to the traitors for telling her things they already knew. Rob says that Tara and Johnny really outed themselves when they talked about how close they are. I don't know. Did they? Or is that just him trying to set up the next vote to get out either Rob to get out either Johnny or Tara? Kristen tells us she didn't learn much from the round table, except she noticed that Eric didn't talk much. Red flag there, folks. Kristen suddenly is putting her eye on Eric for not talking much. Kristen tells Mark and Rob, if I am murdered, look at Eric. You can see Rob pondering this. So now Rob has information that Kristen is suspicious of Eric. How can he use that to his own advantage? Do we murder Kristen? Who is one of the ones that is up for potential murder? Or do we not? Do we just wait until tomorrow? And, all these things. So it's time for the turret. Eric says he's worried. Rob tells Eric that Kristen is suspicious of him. We do not see him tell Eric that she said, if I'm murdered, look at Eric. He says she's suspicious of you, but he doesn't say that part. Or if he did, again, they didn't show it to us. They come up with their 4 options that they have to choose from, which again is Tara, Johnny, Natalie, and Kristen. The faithful, we don't know, right? We don't know who they're going to go after. I'm not sure. I kind of thought maybe Kristen. I predict that Natalie is going to go. That's who I think they're going to choose, but we don't know, of course. The faithful get notes that they have to go to the basement or the dungeon or whatever, and they'll find a jack-in-the-box there, and they have to spin this miniature jack-in-the-box, and when it opens, if there's a traitor in the jack-in-the-box, they've been murdered. So they're leaving it all for next week's show, which they do anyways, right? They'll show us breakfast, and they'll show us them stumble back in, and much like the being tied to the tree bit, we'll see each one come in and have their story about how they popped the box and it wasn't a jack-in-the-box, or it wasn't a traitor, and they're alive. So they that's where we're at. The preview, they did a preview tease, but it didn't show us anything. It showed us all of the potential murderees. So it's not like they showed us, one that we wouldn't expect. They showed us every one of them. So we don't know. And it wasn't any gameplay. It was just them posing for the camera. So there was no, and then the other thing they really teased was the 2-dagger thing again. Well, it has to be used. Rob either has to use it or doesn't use it on the next episode. And the only way I think Rob is going to use it is to eliminate Eric. That's my thought. When they talked about, the other thing was in the turret, when they talked about who to potentially murder, Eric said about Natalie, she trusts you so hard. So it's another instance of someone who trusts Rob, who has, is a faithful and says so much trust in Rob, got murdered. That to me is just another thing that's going to make Rob look like he's not. No way could he be the murderer. All right, so I apologize for the jerkiness of this. I had to actually make a couple of stops, but I wanted to get it done. I almost recorded it last night. Thank you for listening. I hope you enjoyed it. I don't know. I wanted to talk to you guys, share what was up, but there's no Big Brother news to speak of, and so this is the best I could do. Those of you that are listening on the Mike Talks About, thank you. I'm trying to come up with another topic to talk about, waiting for inspiration, and other than politics, which I don't think anyone really wants to talk about right now, I couldn't come up with anything at the moment. So I will go back to my home renovations that I'm working on, and unless I come up with something truly inspiring to talk about, I will talk to you all, at least probably back on the Mike Talks About podcast next Thursday. And maybe some Big Brother news will come up that'll be amazing and surprising, and we'll talk about that too. Otherwise, we'll talk to you all later. My patrons, I do have a podcast recorder for you that I'm going to try to post in the next day or so, just about general talking. And so if anyone is interested in being a Patreon, you can go to patreon.com/bbgossip, sign up, and there is bits of extra stuff there. That's always appreciated, but not required, although I do like my patrons the best. All right, take care, everybody. Be well. And we'll talk to you hopefully very soon. Bye-bye.